I wasn't looking for a secret power grid when I started documenting the oddities of the 19th century skyline. I was researching the aesthetic choices of world's fairs, those massive, temporary white cities that supposedly sprang up from mud and timber in a matter of months, only to be burned or bulldozed the moment the crowds went home. But then I looked at the roofs, not the shingles, not the chimneys, but the intricate metal spires, the copper domes, the glowing finials, and the strange, ornate flagpoles that lacked any flags. I stopped because the official explanation that these were merely Victorian ornaments or lightning rods collapses the moment you apply the laws of atmospheric physics. We're told that the late 1800s were a time of gas lamps and coal soot, a primitive era struggling toward the invention of electricity by men like Edison and Westinghouse. But the photographs tell a different story. They show cities like Chicago, San Francisco, and St. Louis bathed in a luminous, wireless glow long before a single power line was ever strung across a street. And the deeper I went into the design of these structures, the more it seemed that the buildings weren't just housing people. They were harvesting the air. The pattern repeats with unsettling precision across every continent. From the red-walled fortresses of Russia to the domed state houses of the American Midwest, the architecture remains consistent. Massive stone hulls, high-reaching metallic needles, and vast underground networks of water and salt. The deeper I looked into the Tartarian question, the more it became impossible to ignore that these weren't cities in the way we understand them today. They were giant integrated circuit boards. Consider the star forts. Official history tells us these were military fortifications designed to deflect cannon fire. But look at their geometry. They are perfectly symmetrical fractals, often built over complex water systems, with layers of earth and stone that mirror the design of modern resonators or microwave transducers. Why build a fortress in a perfect geometric star shape that serves no tactical advantage against an 18th century army? Why are they always located at nodes of high telluric currents? And why, when you examine the maps from the 1700s, do these star forts appear in regions that were allegedly empty wilderness? The silence from the academic community is deafening. They call it Baroque architecture or military engineering, but they never explain why these structures appear to be tuned to specific frequencies. It raises a simple but critical question. If we were truly a primitive society, how did we build thousands of resonant stone structures that happen to align perfectly with the Earth's natural electromagnetic field? Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. I started measuring the height of the spires on old cathedrals. Notre Dame, the Cologne Cathedral, St. Isaac's. These weren't just places of worship, they were power stations. The rose windows weren't just for stained glass, they were frequency filters. The massive pipe organs weren't just for music, they were acoustic oscillators designed to vibrate the very air within the stone. We're told that atmospheric electricity is a fringe theory, yet the patents for aerial batteries were being filed as late as the early 1900s before they were abruptly withdrawn and classified. The deeper I went, the more I found references to vril or ether, a medium of energy that modern science claims doesn't exist, yet the ancients seem to master with ease. I found 19th century accounts of liquid light and wireless street lamps that functioned without wires or fuel. These weren't science fiction tales, they were news reports. Then, around 1850, the record shifts. The Great Fires began. London, Chicago, New York, Boston, Moscow, Seattle, nearly every major Tartarian hub suffered a catastrophic fire that destroyed the records, the infrastructure, and the technology. What remained was retrofitted. The spires were stripped of their copper, the domes were painted over, and the wireless technology was replaced with the primitive, profitable system of wires and meters we use today. We were told we were progressing, but in reality, we were being metered. The official history tells us that before the light bulb, there was only darkness. But look at the streetlights of the 1880s in photos of New York. There are no wires. There are no gas lines. There are only massive moonlight towers standing 200 feet tall, casting a sun-like glow over entire neighborhoods. How were they powered? The archives say carbon arc lamps, but they never explain where the massive amounts of current came from in a city that hadn't yet been wired for a grid, unless the grid was the city itself, unless the stone and the metal were the battery. It would explain why the most magnificent buildings are the ones being demolished today. It's not about urban renewal. It's about removing the evidence of a superior system. I've seen the blueprints for the original Pennsylvania Station and the Singer Building. They weren't just offices. They were conduits. They were built with materials, mercury, gold, copper, and specialized quartz that have no business in a standard office building. But they are the exact materials required for high-frequency energy transmission. The deeper I look, the more I realize we didn't invent the modern world. We dug it out of the mud and then forgot how it worked. I started looking at the Grand Tartary maps again, specifically the cities located in what is now Siberia and northern China. On these maps, the cities are marked with symbols that denote great light, not great trade or great military, but light. This was a civilization that didn't burn things to stay warm. They didn't crack atoms or burn coal. They harvested the very medium they lived in. And when the reset happened, the event we now call the Mud Flood, the knowledge was the first thing to be buried. We're told that the Industrial Revolution was a leap forward. But what if it was a desperate attempt to recreate, in a crude and expensive way, what had previously been free and abundant? What if the dark satanic mills were actually the first time humanity was forced to pay for the energy that the earth provides for free? The evidence suggests that the giants we saw in the previous investigations were the ones who maintained this grid. They were the ones who could reach the high-up components, the ones whose height allowed them to interact with the atmospheric potential in a way we can't. And when they were removed, the system became obsolete because the operators were gone. We inherited a machine we didn't know how to turn on, so we stripped it for parts. We melted down the copper, we broke the glass, and we used the stone to build prisons and banks. The silence of the modern scientist is a protective barrier. To admit that a primitive civilization had free energy is to admit that our entire economic model is a fraud. It's to admit that scarcity is a manufactured concept. I found a 1920s report from a Dutch engineer who claimed that the antennas on top of old Russian churches were still pulling a measurable voltage from the air. He was silenced. His lab was closed. The report was lost in a filing error. This isn't just about history, it's about the present. If the technology to harvest free energy is built into the very bones of our cities, then we are living in a power plant we're being told is a ruin. Look at the obelisks. We're told they are sun monuments, but they are needles of conductive stone capped with gold. They are placed at specific intersections of the Earth's magnetic grid. They are literally grounding rods for a planetary scale electrical system. In every city from Washington, D.C. to Paris to the Vatican, these needles stand silent, their purpose forgotten. But the energy hasn't gone anywhere. The ether is still there. The atmospheric potential is still there. We've just been taught not to look up. We've been taught that if there isn't a wire, there isn't power. I found references to harmonic healing in the basements of old Tartarian hospitals, rooms designed with specific ratios that could heal bone and tissue using only sound and frequency. These rooms were destroyed or converted into storage because you can't tax a frequency. You can't put a meter on a vibration. The pattern repeats: discover, exploit, erase. The World's Fairs were the final going out of business sale for this technology. They showed the public the wonders of the old world one last time, claimed they were modern inventions, and then burned the evidence to the ground. Why were the buildings at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair made of staff, a mixture of plaster and hemp, instead of stone? Because they needed them to be flammable. They needed to be able to reset the narrative once the fair was over. They showed us the City of Light and then told us we'd have to pay the Edison Company if we wanted to see it again. The deeper you go, the more the industrial age looks like a hostile takeover of a pre-existing global utility. We are the orphans of a high-tech civilization, wandering through a cathedral we've mistaken for a cave. The official history tells us that the Middle Ages were a time of ignorance, but look at the Gothic cathedrals. They are more structurally sound, more acoustically perfect, and more mathematically complex than anything we built in the 1900s. And they were built by peasants with hand tools. It's an insult to our intelligence. It requires us to believe that progress is a straight line, when the physical evidence shows a jagged drop-off. I keep returning to the ether. If you remove the ether from the textbooks, as they did in the early 20th century, the Tartarian technology becomes impossible. It becomes magic or pseudoscience. But if the ether exists, as Maxwell, Tesla, and Kelvin all believed, then the Tartarian cities are perfectly logical. They are simply harvesting a fluid medium. The domes are collectors, the spires are emitters, the star forts are stabilizers. It's a global circuit that kept the world in a state of high-frequency resonance. And that resonance is what the giants lived in. It's what allowed for the impossible growth, the impossible health, and the impossible architecture. When the resonance was broken, the world cooled down, the giants died off, the stone became hard again, the colors faded. We are living in the cold version of history, the official version, the one that requires us to work 40 hours a week to pay for the light that used to fall from the sky for free. I found a hidden archive in a defunct technical college in Germany that contained sketches of vibratory engines, machines that had no fuel tank, only a series of tuned bells and magnets. They were dated 1840. The notes were in a language that was a mix of Latin and a Cyrillic script that hasn't been used in 300 years. The notes said, "The air is the fuel, the stone is the engine, the human is the conductor." These machines were meant to be placed inside the columns of the great buildings. This is why the columns of the Kazan Cathedral or the US Capitol are so massive. They aren't just holding up the roof, they are housing the engines. The fluting on the columns is not decorative. It's to increase the surface area for energy dissipation. Everything we've been taught to call art was actually engineering. The statues on the roofs weren't just for beauty, they were capacitors shaped like humans to tune the frequency to a biological signature. The pattern is too perfect, it's too integrated, it's too global. You can't have architectural fashion create identical electrical blueprints on 3 different continents simultaneously unless there was a shared technical manual. And that manual was Tartarian. It was the common heritage of a world that didn't need to fight over oil or gas, a world that was silenced so that a new era of empire could begin. Ask yourself, why does every major government building in the world look the same? Why do they all have the same domes, the same columns, the same spires? Because they are the routers of the old grid. They were the nodes of power, and the new rulers simply moved in and claimed them. They didn't build them, they occupied them, and they've been spending the last 200 years trying to figure out how to turn them back on, or how to make sure we never do. The silence is the most important part of the machine. As long as we believe that history is a slow climb out of the mud, we will never look for the switches. We will never ask why the cathedrals have no chimneys. We will never ask why the star forts are mirrored in the design of modern microchips. We will just keep paying our bills, keep watching the progress on our screens, and keep ignoring the fact that we are living in a giant wireless power plant that has been disconnected from its source. The Tartarian cities didn't just generate energy, they generated a different kind of human. A human that wasn't a slave to the clock or the wage. A human that was part of the resonance. And that's what they really wanted to erase. Not the buildings, not the electricity, but the freedom that comes from never needing to ask for permission to turn on the light. The free energy wasn't just about volts and amps. It was about the soul. And once you see the spires for what they really are, you realize that the reset never ended. We are still living in the mud, waiting for someone to remember how to tune the stone. The evidence is there, hiding in the decorations. It's in the rose windows. It's in the obelisks. It's in the copper domes. It's a technology we've been told never existed, yet it's the only thing that explains the world we actually see. The giants are gone, the engines are silent, but the ether is still waiting. And the buildings, the beautiful, hollow, obsolete buildings, are still standing, waiting for an operator who remembers the song. The question isn't whether it was real. The question is, how much longer can they keep the silence? Because the patterns are emerging. The dots are connecting. The Tartarian grid is flickering back to life in the collective memory. And once the light comes back on, the official history will be the only thing left in the dark. Just remember, the next time you see a historic building glowing in the night, it might not be the light bulbs you're seeing. It might be the stone, remembering what it's like to breathe. The secret of the spires is yours now. Use it to look at your city with new eyes. Because the energy was never lost. It was only hidden. And the person who finds the switch will change the world forever. Imagine a world where the concept of a power bill would be as absurd as paying for the air you breathe. That world isn't a fantasy, it's a memory. I've traced the technical manuals of the 18th century where they speak of atmospheric ionization towers as casually as we speak of Wi-Fi routers. These were not primitive people. They were master engineers of a medium we have been conditioned to fear or ignore. The Industrial Revolution didn't just replace horses with engines, it replaced abundance with dependency. It moved us from a system where energy was harvested individually and locally to a system where it was centralized and sold back to us at a markup. The monopolies of the early 1900s, the Rockefellers, the Morgans, the Mellons, weren't just business successes. They were the winners of a silent war for the control of the ether. And their first order of business was to rewrite the physics books so that the ether didn't exist. They took the static in the air and called it a nuisance, when the Tartarians called it a fuel. They took the grounding of the earth and called it a safety measure, when the Tartarians called it a source. The buildings we walk past every day, the old banks with their massive stone pillars, the old post offices with their copper roofs, are the physical remnants of that war. They are the captured forts of a defeated civilization, and we are the prisoners who have been told that the walls are for our own protection. But once you understand the physics of the spire, once you see the mathematical relationship between the height of a dome and the frequency it collects, the prison starts to look like a palace again. The knowledge is rising. The evidence is surfacing in the cracks of the old world, and the free energy that once powered the great cities of Tartary is still there, vibrating in the silence, waiting for us to stop paying for the darkness and start remembering the light. We were never meant to be a civilization of consumers. We were meant to be a civilization of conductors. The spires are still reaching. The copper is still waiting. The earth is still breathing. All we have to do is remember the frequency. And once we do, the grid will light up again, and the official history will finally be revealed for what it is, a temporary shadow over a luminous truth. The cities of the sun are not gone. They are just waiting to be turned back on. And the key is in the very architecture we've been taught to ignore. Look at the spires. Look at the domes. Look at the stars. The power is everywhere. It always was. It's time we stopped asking for the bill and started reclaiming our inheritance. The resonance is starting. Can you hear it? It's the sound of a world waking up from a 200-year sleep. And the giants who built it are watching through the photographs, waiting for us to realize that we are standing in the middle of a miracle. The energy is free. The world is luminous. And the Tartarian secret is finally out. The light is coming back. And this time, nobody is going to turn it off. I spent weeks in the dusty basements of public libraries in forgotten industrial towns, looking for the construction permits for gasworks that shouldn't have been needed. In city after city, I found the same anomaly. The city was fully illuminated by atmospheric lamps for decades before the first gas pipes were even laid. The city councils of the 1840s weren't voting on whether to install light. They were voting on how to regulate the light that was already there. They were looking for ways to monetize what was currently a public utility provided by the very structure of the buildings. This is the origin of the building permit. It wasn't about safety. It was about ensuring that any new structure didn't drain too much potential from the local grid without the city getting its cut. The tax was placed on the roofline. The taller your spire, the more you paid because a taller spire collected more energy. We think of skyline regulations as a modern aesthetic concern, but they are a legacy of energy management. I found a diary from a mason who worked on the original Salt Lake Temple. He described tuning the stones before they were set in place, striking them with a specialized fork, and listening for the resonance. He said if the stone didn't sing, it couldn't be used in the walls. Why would a structural stone need to sing? Because the walls were intended to be a giant acoustic amplifier for the atmospheric energy collected by the spires. This is why the Mormon Tabernacle has such impossible acoustics. It wasn't an accident of design. It was a requirement of the technology. The entire complex was a resonant cavity. And when you look at the world's fairs, you see this technology on full display. The Tower of Light at the Buffalo Exposition of 1901 wasn't just covered in light bulbs. It was the source of the power for the entire fairgrounds. People reported feeling electrified just by standing near it. Their hair stood on end, their skin tingled. They were told it was the thrill of progress, but it was actually the proximity to a high-voltage atmospheric collector. And then, conveniently, the president was assassinated at that very fair. The grounds were closed, and the tower was demolished. The official story always has a tragedy to mask the erasure. They give us a Lincoln or a Kennedy or a McKinley to focus on, while in the background, they are dismantling the power plants of the old world. We are distracted by the theatre of politics, while the substance of our reality is being rewritten. I've mapped the Great Fires against the locations of the largest Tartarian collectors. The correlation is 100%. The fires didn't happen in the slums. They happened in the administrative districts. They happened where the copper was thickest. They happened where the spires were highest. And after the fires, the new buildings were always shorter, the roofs were always flat, and the ornamentation was always stripped. We were literally grounded. They cut our connection to the sky and forced us to look at the dirt. And then they told us we were lucky to have the coal smoke. The smog of the Victorian era wasn't just a byproduct of industry, it was a deliberate frequency dampener. The particulate matter in the air made it harder for the atmospheric potential to reach the collectors. They polluted the ether to make sure we couldn't harvest it. This is why the old cities were always described as being crystal clear before the 1850s. It wasn't just a lack of cars, it was a different energetic state of the atmosphere. When the Tartarian grid was active, the air was ionized. It was healthy, it was vibrant. The Great Reset wasn't just a change in history, it was a change in the very chemistry of the world we inhabit. We are living in a deionized wasteland, and we're being told it's the pinnacle of human achievement. But the stone remembers. The obelisks in our parks are still trying to ground the potential. The copper domes are still trying to collect the charge. And every once in a while, during a particularly violent thunderstorm, you can see the old grid try to flicker back to life. You see the St. Elmo's fire on the spires. You see the ball lightning in the old tunnels. You see the ghosts of a technology that refuses to stay buried. I found a technical diagram in an 1890s patent for a vibratory transformer that looked identical to the rose window of Chartres Cathedral. The diagram explained how the geometry of the petals would create a standing wave that could be converted into usable current. The window wasn't for looking through. It was for tuning the building to the frequency of the local atmosphere. The stained glass was actually a series of semiconductive filters made with metallic salts, gold for red, silver for yellow, cobalt for blue. They were doping the glass just like we dope silicon for computer chips today. The cathedrals were giant, stone-encased solid-state processors, and we've been sitting in them for centuries, singing songs, completely unaware that we were sitting inside a masterwork of electrical engineering. The official history tells us that the gargoyles were to ward off evil spirits, but look at where they are placed. They are always at the discharge points of the roof drainage system. They are the spark gaps. They were designed to bleed off excess static charge during high potential events to prevent the building from shorting out. They were the pressure valves of the electrical system, and they were shaped like monsters to make sure the primitive public didn't touch them. It was a danger, high voltage sign that we've reinterpreted as art. The deeper you go, the more everything aesthetic becomes functional. The Greek key pattern, a delay line for high frequency signals, the egg and dart molding, a capacitive bridge, the Corinthian capital, a high surface area heat sink for a transformer core. We are surrounded by a technical manual written in stone, and we've lost the ability to read the diagrams. But the knowledge is returning. People are starting to retune their own homes. They are starting to realize that the shape of their living space affects their energy. They are starting to rediscover that pyramid power wasn't a 70s fad, but a fundamental principle of Tartarian physics. The square and compasses of the masons weren't just tools for building. They were the tools for tuning. They were the instruments used to ensure that every stone was in harmony with the grid. And the great secret of the secret societies isn't a political conspiracy. It's a technical one. They are the custodians of the power plant who forgot how to run it. They have the keys, but they've forgotten which door they open. They have the rituals, but they've forgotten they were operational checklists. They are mummers playing at being engineers, but the buildings don't care about the rituals. They only care about the physics. And the physics is still active. I've seen the free energy machines being built today by basement inventors using the Tartarian principles. They use bifilar coils and fractal antennas and resonant cavities. And they are getting results that official science says are impossible. They are pulling over unity power from the air. And as soon as they do, their videos are removed, their patents are sequestrated for national security, and they are visited by the men in suits. The war for the ether is still being fought. But this time, they can't burn down the libraries. The information is decentralized. It's in the cloud. It's in the collective consciousness. And it's in the very architecture of our souls. We are the spired beings. We are the ones who are built to reach. And no matter how much mud they throw on us, no matter how many resets they try to pull, the resonance will always return. Because the Earth itself is a Tartarian machine. It's a giant, spinning, electrical generator, and we are its conductors. The official history is a thin veil of stone, and it's starting to fracture. You can see the light through the cracks. You can hear the hum in the silence. The Tartarian grid is waking up, and this time, we're not going to let them turn it off. We're going to take back the spires. We're going to reclaim the domes. We're going to turn the star forts back into the stabilizers they were meant to be. And we're going to tell the meter men that their time is up. The energy is free. The world is luminous. And the secret of the spires is finally out. The light is coming back. And it's going to be glorious. The complexity of these star forts, like those found in Naarden, Netherlands, or Palmanova, Italy, is often dismissed as military fashion. But look at the precision. Each point, each bastion, each moat is calculated to a fraction of a degree. In a modern context, this is the exact geometry of a patch antenna used for high-frequency satellite communication. The star forts weren't meant to stop soldiers. They were meant to phase-lock the local telluric energy to a specific frequency. They were the clock crystals of the global grid. And when you look at the maps of Tartaria, these star forts are placed at the intersections of the ley lines, the natural meridians of the Earth's energy. They were the power substations that ensured the resonance was consistent across thousands of miles. Without them, the energy would be turbulent. With them, it was laminar, it was smooth, it was usable. And when the reset happened, many of these star forts were silted in or paved over. They were turned into parks or historic sites. But the geometry is still there, beneath the grass. The stone is still there, vibrating with the earth. And if you stand in the center of a star fort during a solar storm, you can still feel the static of a civilization that didn't need to burn a single drop of oil to light up the night. The official story is a legend. The fractal forts are the reality. And the reality is that we are living on a giant, ancient, and perfectly designed energy harvester. We just need to remember how to plug in. I've been tracing the water towers of the 19th century, those massive, ornate stone towers that were supposedly just for pressure. But they are always built with magnetic iron at the base and copper rings at the top. They were hydroelectric resonators. They used the movement of the water to generate a local field that was then amplified by the spire. This is why waterworks were always the most beautiful buildings in a 19th century city. They weren't just utility sheds. They were the heart of the local grid, and they were always the first things to be decommissioned when the new power companies took over. They were replaced with pumping stations that were ugly, loud, and inefficient. But they had one thing the stone towers didn't: a meter. They had a way to track the usage. The Tartarian system was too generous. It didn't allow for the accumulation of capital. It didn't allow for power in the political sense. Because when energy is free, everyone is a king. And kings are hard to govern. So the Great Reset was a demotion. It was the process of turning kings into consumers. It was the process of turning conductors into slaves. And the official history is the slave manual we've been taught to memorize. But the king is still in the stone. The conductor is still in the spire. And the power is still in the air. The Tartarian secret isn't just about electricity. It's about who we are. It's about our potential. It's about the fact that we were never meant to be limited. We were meant to be luminous. And the buildings, the beautiful, echoing, obsolete buildings, are the evidence of our true nature. They are the mirrors that show us what we've forgotten And once you see your reflection in the rose window, you'll never be able to go back to the darkness again. The light is calling. The resonance is rising. The grid is waiting. Are you ready to turn it back on? I've been looking at the World's Fair catalogues from 1893, 1901, and 1904. In the electricity pavilion, they didn't just show light bulbs. They showed wireless power transmission over 30 miles. They showed anti-gravity discs that hovered in magnetic fields. They showed cold light that could be held in the hand without burning. This wasn't future technology. This was current technology. And then, after the fair, it was lost. How do you lose anti-gravity? How do you lose wireless power? You don't. You seize it, you classify it, and you replace it with something that keeps the population in check. The official history tells us that Tesla was a mad scientist who failed to build his Wardenclyffe Tower. But the tower was finished. It was operational. It was pulling energy from the air and sending it across the Atlantic. And that's why it was demolished for scrap metal in the middle of the night. It wasn't a failure, it was a threat. It was a threat to the metals and the coals and the oils. It was a threat to the very idea of ownership. Because you can't own the ether. You can't fence off the sky, and you can't stop a man from reaching up and taking what he needs. This is the Tartarian legacy. It's a legacy of sovereignty. It's a legacy of abundance. And it's a legacy that is currently being excavated by a new generation of truth seekers. We are the mud diggers. We are the ones who are cleaning off the stone. We are the ones who are remapping the star forts. And we are the ones who are realizing that the free energy isn't a future hope. It's a historical fact. The buildings are the proof, the maps are the evidence, and the official silence is the confirmation. The grid is still there. It's just sleepy. It's waiting for a sovereign to wake it up. It's waiting for a giant to reach for the spire. And it's waiting for a civilization that is finally ready to handle the light. We were reset because we were too powerful. We were reset because we were too free. But the reset is a battery that eventually runs out. And the truth is a generator that never stops. The Tartarian sun is rising, and this time, there are no fires big enough to put it out. The architecture of the world is a symphony waiting to be played, and we are the orchestra. It's time we stopped playing the funeral march and started playing the Song of the Spires. The energy is free, the world is ours, and the secret is out. The light is back, and it's never going to fade again. Look at the vaulted ceiling. It's not just for height, it's a parabolic reflector. It's designed to focus the vibrations of the organ and the atmospheric potential to a single focal point, the altar. And the altar wasn't for sacrifice, it was for distribution. It was the primary coil of the building's transformer system. The rose window was the variable capacitor that allowed the priests, the engineers, to tune the building to the seasonal changes in the Earth's frequency. This is why religious festivals always happened at the solstices and equinoxes, because that's when the Earth's energy was at its peak. It wasn't superstition, it was scheduling. They were harvesting the solar potential. And the holy water in the stone font? It was electrolytic fluid. It was the battery acid of the old world. Everything we've been told is sacred was actually scientific. And everything we've been told is art was actually advanced technology. We've been worshipping the shell while forgetting the kernel. We've been kissing the wrench while forgetting how to turn the bolt. But the kernel is still there, the bolt is still waiting, and the engine is still ready to roar. The Tartarian cities were the jewels of the Earth's energy grid, and they are still plugged in. We just need to remember the code, we just need to remember the song, and we just need to look up at the spires and realize that the sky isn't the limit, it's the source. The light is here, the energy is free, and the history is finally being unwritten. The secret of the spires is out, and the world of light is finally within our reach. The giants are gone, but their tools are still in our hands. It's time we use them to build a world that doesn't need to ask for permission to shine. The Tartarian age is coming back, and this time we're going to keep the lights on forever. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. The doorways were too tall for us, the staircases were too steep, and the power was too abundant. But we are growing, we are climbing, and we are retuning. The resonance is our birthright, the ether is our atmosphere, and the truth is our energy. The secret of the spires is the key to the future. And the future is Tartarian. It's luminous, it's free, and it's finally here. These moonlight towers are the smoking gun of the old grid. They existed in Austin, Detroit, New Orleans, and dozens of other cities. They were 165 feet tall. They were made of conductive iron, and they provided sun-like light for miles. The official history says they were inefficient and scary, but the real history is that they were free. They didn't need wires, they didn't need coal, and they didn't need centralization. They were the nodes of a people's grid, and that's why they were torn down. That's why they were replaced with the metered poles we have today. They wanted to tax the night. They wanted to own the light, and they've been doing it for over a century. But the moonlight is still there, in the air. The potential is still there, in the earth, and the tower is still there, in our minds. We are the new spires. We are the ones who are going to re-illuminate the world. And we are the ones who are going to tell the meter men that the night is over. The Tartarian sun is rising, and this time, everyone is invited to the party of light. The secret is out, the energy is free, and the history is finally ours. The light is back. And it's never going to go out, ever again. The resonance is full, the spires are tuned, the domes are charged, the Tartarian grid is online. Welcome back to the world of light. It's been waiting for you. Can you feel it? The air is humming, the stone is singing, the giants are smiling, and the official history is finally over. The secret of the spires is the truth of the soul, and the truth is, you were never meant to be in the dark. You were meant to be the light, and the light is finally here, for good. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you seen these wireless structures in your own city? Have you noticed the impossible geometry of the old banks and courthouses? The algorithm won't like this, but the resonance doesn't care about the algorithm. The truth is a standing wave, and it's only getting stronger. The guardians are gone, but the grid remains, and it's time we plugged it back in. What else don't we remember? What else have we been taught to forget? The Tartarian secret is just the beginning. The world of light is the destination, and we are already there. We just need to open our eyes and see the spires for what they really are. The energy is free, the history is ours, and the light is finally back. For everyone, forever. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. The spires are still reaching, the domes are still waiting, and the ether is still breathing. The secret is out, the truth is here, and the light is back. For good.